What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Griever back here, your guys' host as always, bringing you guys the latest behind the bar reviews for 7 Deadly Sins, chapter 329 review. Let's get underway, ladies and gentlemen, because this chapter I was worried about this chapter a little bit before I saw any Raws, before I saw anything. I was like, okay, and then when I saw the Raws, I was like, all right, I was more hyped for the Raws. Then we got our first translation last night, and I am so glad I waited for a better translation before doing this review, because the dialogue is vastly different, and it makes way more sense, and it's far better, and it rounds out the chapter and the characters far better with the cleaner translation, right? So I am so glad I waited. I needed sleep too, but I'm also glad I waited, because this chapter was quite good, right? Like right off the bat, we get the cover page of Zeldris standing in some very odd looking armor. It looks like Gilthunder's or like the Leonis like Holy Knight armor and stuff. I'm not really sure what the purpose of showcasing that is. That's kind of weird. His armor looked fine before. I don't get what the symbolism is supposed to be here. Once again, Nakaba, use your cover pages. I've always told you to do so, but use them properly. Use them to showcase us, some mythos and some information, and utilize them. People might say that's copying Oda. I don't give a shit. Last time I checked, the first person who wrote a book was copied. The first person who invented the laptop. Well, there's tons of different companies that make laptops now. Smartphones, televisions, video games. Take your pick. Manga in general. Someone had to make the first manga. Is everybody, copying him now? No, of course not. They're taking something and go, man, that's a great idea. I'm going to utilize that. Or utilize that skill or that format or that idea, and I'm going to incorporate it into and make it my own. That's what creativity is about, So, I just wish you'd use the cover pages more. But nonetheless, it was just a bit of an odd cover page. So I don't really understand the symbolism here. It looks nice, but anyways, after this, okay, so right off the bat, right, we jump into a scene we have actually seen a couple times before, and we finally got the full scope of the scene. It was Meliodas when he officially left the Demon Clan, right? And Zeldris was there, and Aranka, and Zeno, the two commandments that Meliodas killed on his way out, clearly because they were spying on this conversation. We don't see them here, but because apparently that's another irrelevant thing that happened in Taizai. But what we do see is that same conversation. Zeldris yelling at Meliodas saying, like, grab Gelda, come with me. I'm leaving, you should peace too. And, of course, Zeldris going, no, you don't understand, I hate you. If you do this, we are enemies from here on out. I won't have you betray us. You will no longer be my older brother. How could you do this to me? All that stuff, right? So it's the conversation we saw. Then it twists, and it's the Demon King once again taking over and showcasing an illusion, version, and he's talking through the illusion. And he's saying, oh, well, if that's the case, I never really cared for you as a little brother as well. I'll slaughter you next time I see you. This was all just a ploy, blah, 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 right? We see Gelda and Zeldris standing there watching this scene unfold. He's seeing himself, he's watching the scene unfold, and he's hearing in his mind, do you see? Meliodas never truly cared about you. Remember how much malice was in his tone, and all this stuff just lying through his teeth. And Zeldris is having none of it. The Prince Goat is having none of this. He grabs his sword, slashes the illusion away. The Demon King reappears in his purgatory form, and Zeldris basically calls him out on it. And throughout this whole chapter, I gotta say, Gelda is a treat. Gelda is a treasure. Why, Nakaba, did you wait over 300 chapters to give us this character? She is just, some people might not like that the cold stone leader of the Ten Commandments, Demon King's right hand, Zeldris, is reduced to like this bumbling idiot to his woman. like he's embarrassed and blushing and stuff like that. But that shows dimensions to the character for me, so I don't mind it, and I just love this chapter because he basically calls him out. Once he reveals the Demon King stands there and goes, whatever, and Zel just basically says, look, really? An illusion? I know exactly what happened back then, and that didn't happen. Like, really? Are you even trying anymore? I mean, if you're gonna do an illusion, old man, at least make it, like, somewhat viable. Try to make me, like, think that's the real thing. Like, he should have called, I was just thinking, like, sort of like, I mean, man, Gother in a wheelchair did a better job. He convinced, like, every race in everybody's mind across everywhere. You can't even convince me of three dialogue lines. Like, come on, man. You're slacking, Pops. That kind of attitude. And Gelda just, like tries not to laugh. Like, she's, and I'm just like, okay, that is funny. Like, Zelda's just calling out. Like, this is supposed to be the god. Like, at this point, the Demon King is a joke, and that's what makes this chapter great, is that Zeldris and Gelda do not treat him like he's any real threat. They don't treat him like, oh, what can we do against his power? They're just like, step aside. Like, this is my body. This is my story. I'm the GOAT. Get out of here, Like, you're just my old man. There's nothing to fear about you. God, I don't give a shit about that, Nakaba has to know that he's made his major villain into such a joke that he's willing to do this now. And I don't mind it one bit but even with all these comedic moments, like, stapled into the chapter, there is serious moments. Like, right here, right after he says this, and Gelda kind of laughs, he basically tells the Demon King, no, I know exactly what my brother was trying to do that day. I know what he was about, finding someone that he loved and trusted and stuff, and he wanted to be with her. And he goes, it was me, in my heart of hearts. I knew it. I couldn't accept it, so I convinced myself, without shadow of a doubt, that he was betraying us, that he was in the wrong, that he was evil, that he was doing the wrong thing by all of us. When in the end, no. And here's what I like. It's you got to read between the lines for this. But throughout this chapter, I think this line, especially like this, like, dialogue bubble, implies he's basically saying, I couldn't accept, like, his hand. Like, he wanted to. Zeldris wanted to go with his older brother. He wanted to grab Gelda. He wanted to get out of this shitty situation. But he's basically saying, my older brother did what I couldn't. He got to leave, and I didn't basically have the balls to follow suit. And I had to convince myself because I was scared or whatever. That's what it seems to imply to me. This is a lot of implication, guys. This is almost bordering on headcanon. But with the way the lines of dialogue are going, and from what we know of the story, does that not seem reasonable to you? That to this point, he has convinced himself that Meliodas betrayed him. How did he ever betray Zeldris? He offered Zeldris to leave with him. That's not betrayal. That's, I gave you the offer, you turned it down. And that's where it is. There was no actual betrayal by Meliodas in a sense. In a very, like, simple sense, right? In a black and white on paper, it just looks like, okay, you said no to a deal. If I offer you friendship and you spit in my face and I walk away, I didn't reject your friendship. You rejected mine, So this is something that I really... that I read a lot into, and I really like this. What's funny is that, of course, right after this, he turns around to Gelda and says basically like, don't tell Meliodas I said that, Like, throughout this whole chapter, he keeps doing that, and Gelda keeps basically going, yes, dear. He's like, well, I'll tell Meliodas. Like, please don't tell him all these, like, corny, like fairy tale level friendship and love and family speeches I'm giving right now. I don't want him to know that. I don't think I could take that right now. Like, it's quite funny. But here in the spirit world, as the Demon King, like, starts to say, you're just like your brother. You would go for a woman instead. You feeble body. You fool. All this stuff. And he's like, you imbecile. He's like, your father who loves you so dearly. And then Zel just calls him out on that too. Like, Demon King starts attacking. Throughout this whole fight, they're fighting back and forth. Demon King starts attacking him, and Zel just goes, really? That's your next play? Like, the illusion failed, which you didn't put any work into. Now your next play is to try to get me to appeal to emotions. What emotions? You never had any attachment or emotions to me or my brother. Now, there was none. So we feel nothing for you in the same way that you never felt anything true for us. Like, seriously, how far have the mighty fallen here, Mr. Demon King? And he's calling him out on all this bullshit. And I love this, because the Demon King has been reduced to a snake, to a conniver, to someone who just sits back in the shadows like, yeah, oh yes, I am the strength, I am the power. He's basically, the Demon King is the goddamn Wizard in Oz. He's standing behind this giant persona that everyone's terrified of when he's not that strong. He manipulates from the shadows and he tricks everybody. But in the end of the day, he hasn't done shit. And I love it. Like, yes, no, don't get me wrong. The Demon King, of course, is a powerhouse, or supposed to be. Don't get me wrong. But that's the way, from this point to right now, to chapter 329, that is what we've seen of the Demon King. He's the Wizard of goddamn Oz. And it's hilarious because Zeldris is calling him out on all of it in this chapter. I just can't get enough of it. I love it. Now, the rest of this chapter goes by fairly quickly after this kind of heavy dialogue, heavy psychological, heavy like things coming all to a head sort of idea at basically the first half of the chapter. After this, simply, the Demon King and Zeldris continue to fight. As I said, he's swinging his sword, he's trying all these tactics, it's not working. Zeldris basically shows up and goes, because the Demon King's like, oh, I am the great Demon King, blah, 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 bolstering himself. And Zeldris basically goes, yeah, my physical abilities, my power, it's not like yours or Meliodas', but this is the damn spirit world, bitch. And he, slices and dices, and he just says, just like Meliodas, my brother before me, being loved by someone, having the love of someone that you treasure above all else, makes you, this is the spirit world. That's exactly where you get your power from. And you know what? It might be a little cheesy. And unfortunately, Fairy Tail has ruined the Nakama, like the friendship power boost sort of thing, or the loved ones make me stronger power boost because they killed it. They beat it to death with a dead horse, and then they used the dead horse to beat another horse. But the point is that after this, this makes sense in the context. We knew about spirit for a long time in this series, and they are in a spirit world where we even saw back in the abysmal chapter 300 and the fight in the mental world or spirit world between Meliodas and the Demon King, that once a shadow of a doubt pierced Meliodas' mind, he couldn't. It was basically like Esteros' love affecting him. He couldn't harness his strength anymore because he believed it. And if your heart needs to be, your spirit needs to be in high spirits. If you're in high spirits and you truly believe in the love of your brother and the love of your woman and the love of this and love of that, I really don't know where you're going to draw stronger power from. In all honesty, this might be getting a little deep, but how are you going to raise your personal spirit? What would you be able to call upon to defeat the Demon King in a spirit world like this? If not the love of the people around you who you love and who love you back, what else is going to raise your spirit any higher? That's just my personal thoughts on it. A little deep there, guys, but so that's why I'm saying it might sound a little cheesy, but I'm behind it 100%. It makes sense why Zeldris can do this, and I'm giving myself a clap. I'm giving myself a big clap on the back here because there was something that I mentioned in the Discord when we first saw the Raws. And it was the fact that Meliodas and all the damage that the 7 deadly sins, that Escanor and Meliodas especially, have been doing to the Demon King, to Demon King Zeldris in the physical world. All that damage and all that crap that's been going on. Because remember, we were supposed to recognize, I was always of the opinion, back in chapter 300, Meliodas was versus the Demon King and it was Bond versus the Demon King. Remember that the physical one was taking damage because Meliodas in the soul world was doing damage to his spirit, to his soul, right? So Bond was able to actually hold his own and gain upper hands and stuff because he was weakening him from the inside out. I always assumed it was a cause and effect, it was a two-way street. It wasn't showcased very well, But I always assumed that if you beat the crap out of the physical one, that would also potentially affect the spirit one. Maybe not as much. Maybe there's a percentage or a point. Whatever you want to think. I always assumed that. And when we got these Raws, and it's in the Discord, in Grim Reaper's Discord, so go check it out. It's in the all spoiler section. I talked about it. I assumed that when the Demon King's helmet cracks here, after Zeldris and Demon King are going at it and stuff, and we see Gelda, like having her reactions and stuff, and they keep fighting, and it's actually, once again, the art in this chapter has been really good. The art for the last, 10 chapters has been really stellar. There's been some really good art. And here's where Zeldris basically, he goes demon mark. He's got the demon mark on his forehead, and he's holding there, and he's like, Father, you're the damn fool at the end of the day. Because you know why, and this is where we see, the Demon King's helmet has cracked and stuff. Now, I assumed that this was caused because of the outside interference. Before, because I don't read Japanese or Korean or anything. So before, when we just saw the Raws, I assumed that the amount of damage and hurt they've been laying waste on the physical Demon King is affecting the spirit one enough that Zeldris is able to fight him toe-to-toe. In the same way that Meliodas was helping Bond in the reverse. So I assumed that. I was shot down for this idea. Everyone said, no, that's not the thing. This chapter, I'm reading this dialogue as that is absolutely a thing. Not exactly in the same context, but I'm still taking the W. I'm still taking the W because it did affect him. Why? It wasn't because he actually took damage into his physical body. It's because the fact that he was beaten, not once, Zeldris calls him out on it. Father, it's your pride. Your pride is in shambles. Your spirit is weakened. Why? Because you haven't been defeated by Meliodas just once. He beat your ass once, so you're shaken, and right now, he's doing the same damn thing a second time. And that's why the Demon King is losing right now. So Meliodas and Escanor beating the shit out of him a second time did affect the Spirit World one, not in the exact same way. It wasn't literal. It wasn't a direct literal reason, but it was a cause and effect. So I'm taking that W, ladies and gentlemen. I'm taking that W because I called that. I said there needs to be an effect because I didn't see Zeldris' sword connect with that helmet to break it like that, and from a Raw. Now, yeah, they were slashing all over the place. Sometimes Nakaba's art fights can be a little messy, so it could just be summed away. But it makes more sense now. He's crumbling away a little bit. His spirit is weakened, so his armor is shallow because his spirit body is weaker because his spirit hasn't been uplifted. He's been defeated, not once, now basically twice. And he's got Defiant Sons. He's got no backup. His Endora have been defeated. Everything he's pulled has been destroyed. So his spirit is actually far weaker right now. And he even said, and this is, once again, it's driven home even further by the Demon King saying that, preposterous, you shouldn't be able, how could you know that you shouldn't be able to look into what's happening outside right now? So, and Zeldris comes back with, yeah, but I believe in my brother. And we do see a shot of the Demon King. We're back in the physical world for 2 pages. We see the Sins going at him, bloody and beating the crap out of him. We jump back to Zeldris, just saying, I believe in my brother. And we see Meliodas and Demon Mark. We see Zeldris and Demon Mark. And it's a beautiful shot. It looks fantastic. And I'm just sitting there as I said, I assumed it was more literal, but this actually makes more sense. Of course, the physical damage to the physical body would affect the spirit, but it's just not in such a direct way. It's a very indirect way, but it still did. Meliodas defeating the Demon King and the Sins fighting the Demon King right now had a correlation with the current state of the Demon King in the spirit world. That is a fact. It's in black and white in the chapter. So I'm just really happy because I thought that would be a cool connection, and that makes me even more happy that not that I was just right, because it's only a day of being right. It's not like a theory I've had for a long time, but I just really enjoyed that Nakaba would utilize that. He wouldn't make it so cookie cutter. This actually has some layers. This is like, oh yeah, well, this kind of makes sense. It is spirit, and if he's been defeated a bunch of times, the invincible Demon King, once again, that Wizard of Oz thing, that persona he's shown up, when a magician or when a poser basically loses his facade, I mean, his spirit's in shambles. So this makes total sense. The dialogue makes sense, the reasoning makes sense, and then we get, I don't know who it was one time told me that Ominous Nebula was not Zeldris' skill and had to do with the Demon King. He's like, no, he doesn't have Ominous Nebula anymore because he's not the right hand of the Demon King. I'm like, what? What? It makes no goddamn sense. It's his move. That's his magical power. So I didn't ever actually fully understand. I forget who that was, but I remember like just shaking my damn head at that one. And well, here, proven wrong again, whoever that was, because we get the return of Ominous Nebula, and it is so beautiful. He's like, yeah, bye, Dad, pretty much. Ching, we see the gravity, we see it pull in, it's all shaking, the art is beautiful, and Demon King shouting, and everything's going to shit for him, and he is just ripping him to shreds with Ominous Nebula, and it is awesome. Last page of the chapter, we get Gelda and everyone. Gelda comes back out, and Elizabeth's like, oh, Gelda, you're back. And it's like, what's going on? And then we see remember the original adult form of Zeldris? We see him ripped apart, and we see, like, this ugly, like, oozing darkness form of the Ten Commandments and stuff. It's a really cool shot, saying basically, Demon King, Zeldris has repossessed his body. So, like, even though right now he's struggling, and I think the next chapter title is actually Chapter 330, Struggling. So it might be one of those, for anybody who saw the animated Spider-Man cartoon back in the day, it might be a Spider Carnage sort of situation, or it might be, or even similar like the Carnage Venom Eddie Brock thing, the symbiote thing, like get off of me, sort of like struggling sort of idea, with getting the Demon King fully out of him. This will be really interesting. I'm looking forward to the next chapter and how they're going to help or what's going to actually happen. Because right now, Zeldris has success. Like, we're out of the mental world. I'm assuming that for good. We're out of the spirit world. Zeldris is there. He's going to be the one talking in his adult form. This is the Demon King in his Ten Commandments form, the last of his half of his power, just struggling to maintain control, and Zeldris is rejecting him. It's a cool shot. Yeah, that's all I got to say, guys. This has been a great chapter. I really enjoyed it. Excuse me. I don't want this review to go too long, but I just thought there was some stuff to talk about. A hype chapter, because even though Taizai has been falling off heavy in this arc, I will always say Taizai is still a great series overall. I still recommend it, and at the very least, Nakaba, I think, to some degree, knows that he did us a little dirty. By to coin a phrase, he did us dirty by what he's done in this arc, but I think he's not making up for it in the best of ways, but at the very least, he's keeping me entertained because he's showcasing fantastic moments and great art from fan-favorite characters. He's getting Zeldris back on top, showcasing what a good character he is and his power. He's watching the Demon King, making a joke of him because he knows the community thinks he's a joke now. He's got Escanor just showing up for no other reason other than let's just give Escanor a power up because it would be awesome and the fans love him. So at the very least, Nakaba is at least giving us fan service, if nothing else. Actually, he hasn't shown us like legitimate fan service in a long time, which is kind of weird. But either way, that being said, guys, this has been Griever with your Behind the Bar reviews for 7 Deadly Sins, chapter 329. What did you guys think of the chapter? What did you think of the review? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Once again, like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell notification any single time you want to know when I drop a video. Not much else to say. Drink responsibly, guys. I can't wait for chapter 330. I really can't. So, till then, see you next time.